All right, so today we have Annie Fan over here. So a quick intro about Annie. She graduated undergrad at Brown University, one of the Ivy Leagues, and now she's, doing her Harvard MBA. And she also, you already done it, or
I'm doing it in 2 years, in
oh, you,
2026.
okay, different. Okay, that's cool. But
Yeah.
you got accepted, so congrats. Yeah. Then you also work at McKinsey, the most prestigious consulting company in this world. And you're a Forbes Business Council member, and you're very successful in many ways that you've done. So the purpose of this interview is just to understand and learn more about how you got into Brown University, any tips, advice you have to offer to others. So just to start out, Annie, like, do you remember like what was your background or stats or grades when you were first applying to Brown?
Great. Great's easy. I was a straight A student because I mean I had an Asian mom, so that's easy to
Ah.
answer. Uh, uh, yeah, I guess okay. I can start. Like, do you want to start with like maybe stats and then extracurricular, like stuff on my resume, and then maybe I can end with a little bit like value prop or like what I think makes me stand out or get into Brown.
Yeah, yeah, for
Um,
sure. Full shebang.
yeah, so like first I'll give a little bit background about myself. So Annie, I'm come from Vietnam, from Ho Chi Minh City, and I went to school in Vietnam my whole life up until high school. So at first I went to a public school up until like eighth grade, and then I got a scholarship to go to the British International School in Vietnam. And then during that time, I did the all the British programs. So like I did IGCSE and A level. A couple interesting things about my school was um, the campus that I got a scholarship to. It was the newest campus at the time. So when I joined, the school was only like 2 years old, and there are basically very few resources and facilities available for stuff like extracurricular or college admission, right? Like I would say, like I think the class that I graduated from is like the second time that like we had graduation. So like I literally came to the school and there's like nothing at all, right? Um, yeah, yeah. So it was, it definitely made like my journey to, like
Mhm.
prepare for college prep felt a little bit challenging. At the same time, I feel like I was also I was also advantaged in a way because I feel like I was able to get that kind of, international education while not having to leave the country and still being
Mhm.
able to stay with my parents. Like I'm like a mommy's girl. Like I didn't feel ready to like I think my family has some plan for me to go to like uh uh boarding school in Singapore or something, but like I honestly was just like, oh, I'm too nervous. Like I'm not ready to leave my family at this point. So like, I feel like that really helped, right? But anyway, so there are like advantage and disadvantage, right? So like the way I tackle it, um, to like thinking forward for my college application was like, yeah, obviously when it comes to academics, like obviously like work my ass off to always get the best grades, and demonstrating academic excellence, like not just like through grades but also like uh through certain competition. Like I was a bit of a math nerd in college, sorry, in high school, not so much anymore. So like I did a lot of math competition. um and then for those who are familiar with like the British program, when you do A level, you narrow down to like 3 to 5 subjects. And again, at that time, my school didn't have a lot of options, but I feel like for those who go to like the UK system, they tend to be a bit more focused. Like my friends who want to do engineering, they would just like take all STEM subjects.
Mhm.
I didn't do that. I did a bit more well-rounded. So I think I took English literature and then math and economics and chemistry because I was like I wasn't really exactly sure what is it I want to do in college. So I want to be like a little bit well-rounded, but I also make sure to choose like the more challenging subjects. Yeah, and then and then what else? So and then I took the SAT. Yeah, back in my day, like we took the SAT. I think it was on the 2,400 scale. I honestly don't
Mhm.
remember how much I got, but I think it was somewhere in like the 2,200 range. Yeah, it's been 8 years. And I remember doing that.
So the
Um,
top percentile for sure, right?
yeah, definitely. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, I'm not the best test taker, and I'm not gonna lie, I was like, I really hated studying for the SAT. I had to take it multiple times. I really hated it, but like ultimately, I later on figure out like a very systematic way to learn for it. I wish I had figured it out earlier, then I think it would have saved me a lot more time. But like for those who wonder, right, I feel like for SAT and ACT, like it doesn't really test your intelligence. It just tests if you can stick to a certain system and like play by the rules very well. And like if you're able to focus and stay calm, like that's it. So I think like for me it was more like a mental challenge, honestly. And then yeah, and then I also take subject tests. What did I take? I think I took math and chemistry because I was just like, well, those are already the two subjects I'm learning in school. I didn't want to like study anything extra, so I'm like gonna pick something that I already study for, so like just easily do it. Again, I don't remember what I scored, but it was definitely like 790, 780, something like that. Again, Asian household, so being good at STEM is a requirement for survival. Yeah, so it was that. And then in terms of extracurricular resume building, so I feel like for me it was again really interesting because my
Mhm.
school didn't have anything, right? Like we didn't have like Model UN, we didn't have
Mhm.
a lot of the things that other school had. Like yeah, we had like
Mhm.
we still had student council and other stuff, but it was really challenging because the context was a lot of the students in my school they are not really gunning for top US college, at least at
Mhm.
the time that I was trying for. I think now it's like a very different landscape, but at the time it was
Mhm.
pretty much like just me who's like really desperate to get to a good US college. And it's like really hard to get anyone to do anything because they're just like, well, I mean, I'm just gonna go to school in the UK or Australia who like don't care about this,
Mhm.
like I'm just gonna go to like a not a crazy school in the US. I'll do like the bare minimum, right? It was like extremely hard to mobilize people to do anything. So I had to like go way out of my way and like not only like find individuals in the school who I feel like are very driven, but then I also had to like do extracurricular so that I would know people outside of my school, like kids from other international schools or like kids from Vietnamese kids who are like study in different boarding school, and then like work with them to like do a lot of things. Again, I don't remember exactly like what I did, but I remember I was very into uh, environmental activism
Mhm.
and um, like social empowerment, especially when it comes to education.
Mhm.
So one thing I did was I it started out as me volunteering to teach English at this temple in a very rural area of Vietnam where a lot of low income kids were hanging out there. I come from a very strong Buddhist family, so I spent a lot of time there, and then I started hanging out with the kids and like teaching English to them, and then I realized there's an opportunity for me to support them beyond just like teaching English. So I started a little like a little like nonprofit, like it wasn't registered or anything, right? I call it nonprofit, but it just like yeah, I just link up with like friends at school. Like I think at this time, like I don't even know like what even like how to register nonprofit. I had no idea how to do any of this, right? I just like link up with friends from school and like other school to do a more like structured system of support for them. So we did stuff like I think we did like book donation because they don't have a library, like they have a very small library and they need
Mhm.
resources, right? So we did that. We also did like a lot of monetary and in-kind donation because they need like supply for school. And then we did classes like I would organize like trips for people to come down there and either like teach English or like not just English, but like there are other
Mhm.
topics that they were interested in, like creative writing or like acting, like just fun stuff. Yeah, and then that was one of the things I did. Sorry, I'm gonna pause there. Do you have any questions? I feel like I'm rambling.
No, I think it's great. I didn't want to interrupt you. So
Yeah,
basically, what I've gained so far is, you prepared early, you're very resourceful, that
yeah.
you do things out of your way to, find here and there. Okay, so just continuing the interview. So just want to backtrack a little, Annie. When it comes to the SAT, ACT and stuff, like how long did it take you to prepare? Like how long did you prepare before your exams and the multiple exams that followed after that?
Uh, honestly, I feel like people don't want to do what I did. I will tell you what I did, and then I'll tell you what I think I should have done. Because I really did not. I was not very efficient in tackling this. I started studying for SAT. I can't remember, like maybe somewhere between sophomore and junior year or something like that. Um, and then I took my first test, and it was like I don't remember how long I studied for, like 2 or 3 months. So I didn't self-study. I went to this I went to like the local SAT classes, right? And like I just did what already told me to do, and then I took my first test and I was like, yeah, it's like a decent score, but definitely like not IB material. And then I switched to a different SAT uh like center where I feel like the approach of teaching was like way better there. Um basically the a lot of it's the so interestingly the founder of that SAT center remains my mentor up until today. He was the one who also helped me with my college prep and my MBA prep, and even a little bit with my consulting advice, because like he had a very similar background to me where he like did consulting and an MBA as well. Anyway, I'm
I
rambling,
think that
but
I think that's great. I think that's such a key lesson. Like you're sharing so many golden nuggets. Sorry, just stop you. Like that shows that building relationships, you never know where it would go, Like
yeah,
just a relationship maybe like 3, 5 years ago that you just cultivated. You never
yeah,
know like in 3, 5, 10 years time it to be really fruitful.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, and I'll tell you about how I think like what he did, what he helped me do,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that like completely changed my approach to learning, like not just standardized tests, but like consulting skill and everything. Because at the previous place I like learned, I feel like they just give out lessons like very like Asian style, kind of like very passive kind of learning, and then you just take tests, and then you're always like, okay, my score are kind of improving, but like kind of not. It's like spinning wheels, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wasting time, wasting money. But when I encountered this like new mentor, he's like very targeted. He's like he would teach me how to like break down the SAT questions into like different type of question. Like within math, like there are like different big buckets of math question, and each of them are supposed to be like tackled differently, and there are different math topics. Like you're supposed to know like a certain baseline of math concepts to be able to do them well. So you definitely cannot skip like basic math. Same with reading. Like I think my biggest issue with reading is I hate details reading. Like I'm a very like I don't know if you're familiar with MBTI. I'm a very strong like N like intuitive. So I only read for like conclusion, main points, right? I don't care like tone, like and SAT asks so many of that, and I just hate it because I'm like my ADHD brain is like I cannot concentrate. But then he would teach me like a very systematic approach to like combat that. It's like, okay, like break down the passage into like different section, right? Like you don't need to read the whole thing, like just kind of understand like the main point of each of those section, identify their structure, and like for me, like the approach that makes sense for me was originally I was just tagging the question like sequentially, but now he told me like if you're like a more big picture thinker, like tackle the bigger like the main theme question first, and then go into like the more details question later, and then like see if and then at the end like you can do another round. I think that was like super helpful for me. And also like I think another trick that I got, again, like so uh something that I realized, which is like a mental flip for me, was I read a lot, but I'm the kind that like I read and I have an opinion, and I read like behind the lines. Like I was really good at literature, like English literature, because I would read shit. I'll be like, oh, he's implying this and that. Like be like a classic like like the illusion girl. I'd be like, oh, that's the image. Like, that's what it mean. And then I would use the same kind of thinking in the SAT, and it's like completely not good at all because apparently you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to read between the lines. Like you just take literally what is said and then find the answer that best paraphrase it. And you look for certain nuances, but like the advice I got was like it's not the correct answer and it's not what you think. It's what the text is saying and which answer best paraphrase it and is the least wrong. Yeah, and usually like there are like certain kind of mistakes in the wrong answer that you can screen out for. So for instance, um avoid answer that maybe are too specific or too general or too extreme
Sorry,
or
Annie,
like
your background noise is like um
is this
when
better?
you yeah, now it's better. Yeah. I
Okay.
think maybe like some
Yeah,
kids.
something. Yeah, but basically the advice I got was like usually you should double check by making sure if it's not just about picking the right answer, but like you should look at the wrong answer and tell yourself why it is wrong. Like, is it too specific? Is it too general? Is it too extreme? Is it stating something kind of similar, but not really? Is it stating something completely off? And like try to remove your personal opinion from that. Yeah, I
Mm.
think that's the best advice I got when it comes to like the SAT.
Okay. So I done so I think you drop another golden nugget there. Like there's a difference between like brute force studying,
Yep, yep,
your way versus smart studying, Because I went through that as well, like I understand what it means to just like brute force, like trying to
yep,
study if you hit like a loop versus if you just get like someone like a mentor, like a teacher or stuff, to teach you how to like study smarter and stuff. I think that applies across anything. That would be
yep.
such a game changer.
Exactly. And I would also want to add something is so when I took the SAT, it was like my first time seeing a standardized
Mm-hmm.
test, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea of any self-study resources. There are a lot of books out there, but I'm gonna be real, I don't think the SAT books are super helpful. And to navigate yourself is like crazy. That's why I needed a teacher. However, I think that today you don't necessarily need to go to like an SAT class. You can totally study
Mm-hmm.
it by yourself because there are a lot of online resources, like really, really smart people who have
Mm-hmm.
tackled the test. And if you just follow their advice, you can do that. So I'll share one resource. And this is not for the SAT. I think this is more for the GRE and GMAT, which I took for my MBA test, right? So when I did GRE and MBA, like I self-study. There's this guy called Greg Matt, and he like ace all kind of LSAT whatever tests, GMAT, GRE, and he has an online repository where you only pay like $5 or $10 per month, and he would break down the question for you into like different kind of question, like what I said, how to tackle each of them, the big concept you need to learn, and he has like study plan that you can customize too, like so you can like like you have a customized study plan you can stick to. There's online community where you can like share you can post in like a Discord channel or something a question to get debates. He also sometimes does live workshop. That's what I did for my uh like GRE, and like I think I learned from what I did wrong in the SAT, and I use his resources and I just double down like really insanely in like four weeks, and like I got the exact score that I want. I feel like it was a lot less painful and it felt a lot more efficient. Yeah, so like definitely look for like cheap online resources that you can utilize. Yeah.
Sorry, your background noise again. Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
So I think that's such a key lesson when it comes to like studying and get good grades. Like a
Yeah.
lot of people just think like, oh, this person like so smart and stuff. And
Yeah.
they just think you just gotta brute force your way. But
Yeah.
actually nowadays with so much of like, proven sort of frameworks and stuff, it's better to study smart, rather than just brute forcing your way. Okay.
Exactly.
So moving on to the extracurricular, you mentioned the volunteering that you did, at the temple, teaching English, donating money. Any other like extracurricular that you also did?
So I'll share another thing. It was pretty key for me. So before I joined Brow, I was very like I was very woke, and I was like, oh my God, I want to be like an environmental activist, environmental like Greta Thunberg kind of thing right now. Obviously now I'm an ex-McKinsey consultant, like doing digital transformation. So we know I didn't go through that part, but high school Annie was very woke and was like, I want to be like an environmental scientist, like that kind of stuff, right? So I uh uh one thing that I did was there was like I started an environmental protection or something like that club with one of my high school teacher. I think it was either my geography or economic teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
And initially we just did like basic stuff around school, like just like initiative to like save money, not save money, like save water, like save electricity, recycling program, like that kind of stuff. But then a bigger opportunity came around. So what happened was I was working as a summer camp coach for a coach who came from Singapore in Vietnam. And through this coach, I learned that one of his friends, is a really famous environmental scientist and activist in Hong Kong who has like traveled to the North Pole and produced like documentaries on environmental protection. And
Your
she also,
background noise. Sorry, your background noise again.
so I actually don't know what it is. Okay, maybe it's town city. Okay,
Uh,
yes, and she also specialized in like something like designing buildings and furniture so that it's like environmental friendly, right? And I thought that it was like a very unique background,
mm-hmm.
especially for a country like Vietnam. So I use like the environmental club at my school, and then I reach out to a couple of companies. Like honestly, most of these companies are just like companies of the students of like company of parents of the students at my school, right? I would just like write letters and ask for like donation and stuff like that to sponsor like and then I created like a conference where she came to Ho Chi Minh City and she gave like not just like not just like a lecture, like a lecture is part of it on what companies can do and what consumer can do to protect the environment. And then
Mm-hmm.
part of the fundraising, apart from like asking for sponsorship, I also did a couple of exhibition where I just connect to like all of my. I have a lot of art friends for some reason. But I'm not very artsy. Like I had no idea why, but I just asked them to make like we did an exhibition where we use recycling materials and we paid it into like picture or whatever, and then we would sell
Mm-hmm.
tickets to the exhibition, and that's like another way to fundraise, but also to like get more young people like become involved. Yeah, so I think that was another big thing that I did, and there were other things, but I think those were the two key things that I highlighted the most.
Okay. Yeah, I think, like during your time, like until right now, these are like the main popular extracurricular, start clubs, not-for-profits, conferences and stuff.
Yeah,
Okay, makes sense.
yeah.
And want to see like, like who was your sort of like admission sort of advisor, Because you prepared pretty early, you said sophomore, junior year, you prepared, so you had like 2, 3 years of preparation, but like who were you like? Was there anybody that was like guiding you on the overarching strategy, like, oh, you gotta do this?
Yeah, honestly, initially it was just me, me, myself, and my parents, and random advice that we get some from Vietnamese newspaper, which are not always accurate. Like I
Wow.
think my first year, freshman year and sophomore year, it's just like me and my parents like doing random stuff. And, like I would just like research stuff on my own, and like just did it. And honestly, it feels very lost and very like because there are
Mm-hmm.
times where I'm like, I feel like I'm struggling and I need help and I
Mm-hmm.
have no one to ask for help with.
Mm-hmm.
Because my school didn't really have a college admission counselor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then so luckily, like I mentioned to you, there are a couple few people I would say that were key. The first one, again, I have to say, is my SAT teacher who like so with his company, like he does SAT and he also does like college consulting, right? But like the story was a bit funny. Like he literally just decided to help me with my college app because he was like, oh, I like how you think. Like he was just like, you're kind of weird and you're very like outspoken and like you're the only one who's trying from your school, so let me help you out. Like that little part, I was like, oh wow, okay, you picked me based on personality. Okay. Yeah, so he helped me and he helped me a lot. Like not just like I struggled with a lot of things like in high school, like I think the biggest thing was like figuring out what like I had like no uh strategy to apply to college. I feel like I was like every other kid, so I'm like, oh yeah, I applied to like the top school, but like, I'm like, I'll study environmental engineering because I don't know, it's STEM. But then he was like, you should not be doing that. You should not be applying to like a billion school. Like you should narrow down to a reasonable set of school that is a good balance between like a dream school and a match school, a safety school,
Mhm.
not only match like your score range and your resume, but it also has to like be good for what you want to study. Even though that might change, like that's okay. And then the most important thing is like picking a school that share like your personality and your culture. And now this, I feel like this the last part is like the most important part that I never heard about before because I feel like again coming from Asian family, right? The emphasis is always like go to a school that like has a good name or like make sure you have a good major so like so you can have a good job. And like he was the first person who told me like don't just look at those things, like those things are important, but like really pick the right
Okay.
yeah, really pick the right school for you and this right school that like fits with your personality and your mindset
Mhm.
because like college is not just about like grades and getting a job, right? It's all about like
Mhm.
a personal growth experience, right? And so he was the one who like helped me like create like the school. And then like I think the way it works with like I tell him like what I think resonates with me generally, and then he
Mhm.
give me inputs on like based on my observation, like here are like how a different kind of school are, and here's what I recommend you pick. However, I still did a little bit extra homework, so I didn't just like take what he said and be like, yeah, I'm gonna apply to those exact school. I I reach out to uh people who have either attended a college program or like have gone to those school. And again, these are people I knew just like from friends of friends, right? Like I do an extracurricular and I ask them like, hey, do you know anyone who like went to the school, and then talk to them. I also watch a lot of YouTube videos just to like understand. And then so it's a bit of like very like two-way where like I get some input, but I also like validate again with myself to make sure that it feels resonate with me. And that's the way that I went about my college app. Yeah.
So amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry, the background.
Yeah.
So I think that's so amazing, Annie. Like, you did this like you mentioned like 8 years ago. Both of us like studied university at almost the same time. Back then, there wasn't as much resources as it has right now. Now the internet's literally flooding with resources of getting into top schools and stuff. So back then for you it was way harder and stuff. And even I know like my friends who got 4 A stars for A levels and stuff, they still got rejected by the Ivy Leagues and stuff. And I think like your ability of number one being very resourceful and being very proactive, of you like reaching out that started when you were still in high school, like it carried out with you, like that's how we met, like we were part of this society called Cairo Society. You reach out to me. This was like 5 years ago, Then who knew like one day I, just thought had you in mind, when it comes to like this emissions consulting things start to reach out to you. So we never know, like reaching out to people, fostering and planting a seed on relationships. You never know where it might lead to. Okay.
Yeah.
The next question I want to ask is more on the personal statement and the essay writing. Like, was there like a theme? Like, was there anybody guiding you, or like, how did you approach your personal statement, essay stuff?
Say
Sorry, can't
because
hear you.
yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yep, yep.
I have a lot to say about this. So
Mm-hmm.
the way that I approach this is and like maybe this is different from what other people did, but I think
Mm-hmm.
it has worked very well for me is
Mm-hmm.
I don't treat it as like I'm writing something for college. I treat it as like a very honest piece of reflection that I'm writing to my future self and like
Mhm,
people who can help me make what I want happen, right?
mhm,
So a couple things I would share is like when I first approached this whole like college admission thing, like freshman sophomore year, like I was under the same mindset where I'm like I feel like I have to be overly accomplished, like best grades, like best extracurricular, like so stand out to get in. But like the more I do it, like all the challenges that I had to go through and then all the mentors that I met really taught me that like it's not about like accomplishment, it's about like growing as a person and really knowing who you are and putting that down
mhm,
authentically on not just on paper for the sake of getting to a school, but like really it's about like your self growth. That's the most important thing that I learned. And my mindset like transitioned completely. Like originally I felt like all of this is like really scary and daunting, and I always feel like I'm not good enough, like everyone is so good. But then the more I do it, the more I realize, wait, this is not about like, yes, you should be working hard. Like, you should be trying to be accomplished, but like it's not about accomplishment for the sake of accomplishment. Like you should be doing things that you genuinely care about, that you think are helping you grow and that you think are helping like the community in some way. When I say helping the community, it doesn't have to be like philanthropy, right? Like anything that you can do to like add value, add impact counts, right? And that's the theme that I chose for all of my essay. Like again, like a really big theme that I had in college was like social impact, and that encapsulates both sustainability, environmental protection, like education empowerment, none of which I'm working on today. But like that was really big theme for me. Like the whole thing for me was like I come from a developing country. Like I have interacted with a lot of marginalized community, in rural areas with farming activities that I did. I come from a school where it's like I think I'm privileged to go to an international school, but it didn't come with no challenge because it's a new school and like the theme that I had was only about like having very minimal resource and how to make the most of it and grow out from it. And that's the theme that I brought to my essay. And I was like, yeah, so like this is who I am as a person, this is what I come through, this is the struggle that I face, this is how I've overcome them. I want to kind of bring this person and these ideas to college and like being able to attend like not just like a prestigious, but like a leading research institution in the US with way more resources and more like-minded, like talented individuals who can help me tackle bigger problems and build like impactful things for the community. Like that is what I want and that is what I need. And this is the perspective that I can bring. So that was like the theme that I went for my personal statement.
amazing.
Yep.
That's so amazing. Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of, the growth mindset that most of these colleges are looking for when it comes to the personal statements and essays and stuff, the growth mindset sort of reflection. So that's great. Just curious, like apart from Brown, like which universities in total did you like apply to? If you don't mind sharing, which did you get accepted apart from Brown? If you don't mind sharing. Sorry, can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yep,
Is it
yep.
better? Yeah. I do not remember how many schools I applied to. Was it was definitely not more than 20. I think it was between 10 and 20.
Mm-hmm.
I had like again, so I had three bucket of school, dream school, match school, safety school. I think the
Mm-hmm.
dream school I applied to was like Stanford, Brown, Berkeley, UPenn, Cornell, and then a couple others, like Vanderbilt or something. And then the match school was like USC, UCLA, those. And then the safety was like Tulane, American U. Yeah, I think so. Like, yeah. I don't know if that's a comprehensive, but that was what I applied to. And I remember my top choice was Brown, Penn, University of Pennsylvania, and UC Berkeley. And then I also got accepted to USC, UCLA, Tulane, American U. There could be a couple more that I've forgotten, but those are the immediate ones that I remember.
So you got accepted to UPenn as well, is that? UPenn,
Yeah,
Berkeley.
yeah, UPenn, UC Berkeley, and Brown were my top choice. But
Okay.
honestly, I knew like when I started doing the app, I already knew that Brown was the one that I was going to choose anyway. So the decision was not hard for me. It took a little bit of debating with my family though, because they were like, why wouldn't you go to Penn or Berkeley? You know, they're like bigger school, they're more well known to Asian, like blah blah blah. Like, why are you
Yep,
going to
yep,
Brown? What even is Brown? So it was like a whole debate. Like, and I think at one point my parents were like, "We're not paying for college. If you don't go to Berkeley or Penn, we're not
yep.
paying." And I was like, well, then I'll be an influencer and pay for myself. Whatever. Anyway, but like, I think ultimately my parents got convinced because I think we visited Brown and they were just like completely in love with the school, with like how nice and welcoming and diverse Brown is, and they were like, "Oh, we love the school. Like, okay, you should go here." And like up until today, like my parents are like the biggest Brown fans ever. They have a lot of Brown merch. Yeah,
Yeah. Like when it comes to, Asia and stuff, definitely like Berkeley, UCLA, UPenn, that's the more popular one, compared to like
yeah,
Brown.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that's great. We covered the SAT, ACT, the personal statements, the essays and stuff. Moving on would be like what other tips or advice do you have that you want to share? Oh, sorry, before that, did you conduct any like college interviews? Did they interview you back then
Uh,
or?
yes, yes, I did. I think I had an interview with Brown. Oh, and another fun fact: the person who interviewed me for Brown, who's a Brown alum, uh, turns out to be my mentor because he was a banker in Hong Kong. He's American, but then I don't want to say which bank, but he was a banker in Hong Kong. So if you remember when I was like in Singapore looking for internship, like he was also like one of the people who, helped me prep a lot for getting internship in like Singapore and Hong Kong. Like yeah. But yeah, so he interviewed me for Brown.
So how did you ace the interview? How do you prepare for the interview?
Yeah, I honestly the only thing that I prepare for the interview beyond what I already prepare was obviously making sure I know really well uh what is Brown's mission statement and value prop and the kind of students that they look for, and then also having a pretty clear idea of what I think I would want to study or be involved with at Brown, and
Mm.
tying that back to what I've already like studied or accomplished in my extracurricular, right? So like again, some example was like in my essay, in my resume, like the theme of like environmental protection, education, empowerment, international development, it's like very strong. And I relate that both in the essay and in the interview. I was like, when I came to Brown, I want to study I want to study international development, which I did. Um, I want to be involved with certain clubs and communities related to sustainability, which I did. But I think the most important thing was like after speaking to like Brown students, I mean Brown students, like I know very well what kind of person Brown looks for, and I just let it shine naturally through my personality. And I think that's what like the interviewer like me. I feel like yeah, the first half is about him making sure that I'm Brown material. Like I have like the thing on paper. Like he asked very detailed question about like what did you do for your environmental club? Like did you visit the recycling center? And then I was like, oh yes, yes I did. Like I have like very clear answer to what he was asking, right? And uh like like really making sure that I know like anything I put on paper, like I generally did it and I've done extensive research on it and I can answer it. But I think the most important thing of like why he likes me so much is because I was just like very natural. I knew that Brown is a very diverse and um very liberal and very like um like like I don't know how to say it, but like we're basically the reputation for Brown is we're a bit like quirky and very liberal and like artsy and like a bit weird, whatever. And I feel like that really resonates with me. So I just like let my personally shine. And then he felt like a very genuine connection to me. You know, that's why even after I got into Brown, we continued to stay in touch and he checked in with me like every year on how I'm doing at Brown, even when I transitioned from like studying international development to like a more corporate work. He was one of the people who also gave me input on it. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's even when I was interviewed by top corporate firms, they usually ask very, very specific details to see whether it's genuine or not. Now, of course, if it's not genuine, it's very hard for somebody to like recall the specificity of it.
Exactly. And they also want to make sure that like you really put thought into doing what you do. I think
Mhm,
I really want to emphasize this, right? Because I feel like this is a very common theme that I've seen among my friends. Is like I feel
mhm,
like people are just trying to rack up accomplishment
mhm,
to like resume padding, you know. And like it's
mhm,
not bad, but it's like you shouldn't just if you're doing something, you should think about like is it moving the needle? Like,
mhm,
does it have an impact? Like, why am I doing this? Like, what's the rationale behind it? Very consulting. Like, why am I doing this?
mhm.
Right? Like, what is the impact? What are the risks? Right? And those are things that I've thought about when I did it. I don't do a million things. Right? I do a few things that I thought very carefully about, and I when I tell them, I don't just tell them what I did. I said this is what I did, but this is the reasoning behind it, and this is like the impact that I had. And this is what I learned. Yeah. So I think that's really what they look for, not just in college application, but like, recruiting, like anything else. That's what they're looking for.
Amazing. That's amazing. Okay. So I think I pretty much asked everything. Just want to see anything else. Yeah, final thing is like final maybe second last question is, what was life like in studying at Brown? Um, the connection, the network, the studying environment, and later on, like how did it help your career? How has it helped your life so far? It's been like I think like 5 years since you graduated and stuff. Like how has it been for you, from start to finish?
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna grab something.
Sure, sure.
Uh, Yay, this is how much I love Brown. So, um, so this is so I have he's a red panda. He's not a so our school mascot is a bear, brown bear. I have this red panda since I was 5 year old. And when I came to
Wow,
Brown, I love the school so much. I got him a Brown shirt. And
wow,
I brought him like on stage when I graduated at Brown. Like that's how much
wow,
I love Brown. And all my friends who now visit me in New York, like I introduced them to this little guy. Um, yeah, but like Brown was amazing. It was also really challenging. Um, I think the thing I love the most about Brown is the liberal art education. Um, like you already heard about like open curriculum, no GPA, like no GPA. You take whatever classes you want. Like yeah, that's exactly what I did. Right. I think the thing I like the most about Brown is like it really encouraged you to learn for the sake of like intellectual curiosity and for your personal growth. While like I feel like and like this is not to throw jabs at any college, right? But I feel like a lot of people view college at like, yeah, I come there and take classes so I can like my classes look good to certain companies so I can get into certain companies. That is not a wrong way to approach at all. Like to some degree, you need to like learn things that are useful, right, for the workforce, right? But for Brown, like that was not an emphasis. They still allow us to do that, but they emphasize more on like you should be taking things that challenge you, that things that you haven't learned before. You should utilize the opportunity to like receive debates, like be able to like debate and have open discussion with friends, and professor who like know so much more than you and like push your thinking and like really pursue learning because you love it. I think that was like a key thing for me. And also the ability to I feel like I took a very well-rounded set of classes at Brown. I took like I told you I took a lot of international development. I took Spanish class. I did a lot of Latin American politics.
Oh,
I
so
took
diverse.
I took anthropology. I took
Wow.
entrepreneurship class. I took a bunch of finance class.
Wow.
And then I also did data science. It was
Wow.
great. Like the data semester was like a key thing at Brown. And apart from that, like again, the Brown community is also like amazing in the sense that we're more like I don't know if you've heard the stereotype, but like we don't really like compete with each other. Like we help each other, like study and progress and like even recruiting or whatever. People are very open to always like, yeah, I'll do a case interview with you. Or like upperclassmen, like all the upperclassmen I've spoken to have been so nice. Like I would be so clueless and they'd be like, it's okay, like I got you, like no judgment at all, right? Like I'll help you like very like a very like nurturing. I think that the other thing I love, like the social scene of Brown is also like very diverse. Like again, I come from like I think honestly one thing I was a bit worried was like, oh, what if I come to college and and like everyone's like American and like I can't be friends with them. Like I come from like a small country, like what I do, but like unfortunately that was not Brown at all. Like more
Mhm.
than half or are like students of color. There's the international student community at Brown is really strong. I had a lot of international friends at Brown. Um, we did a lot of things together. Like I felt like I there were times where like yeah it was challenging like there are challenges like like going to a school where everyone is like accomplished and like from privileged family and then sometimes like oh I don't feel like I'm good enough, I don't feel like I'm fitting in, but like I think that's just part of college, right? Like ultimately I had a great time. I feel like I grew a lot. A lot of some of my best friends are like I literally just went to Puerto Rico with one of my best friends from Brown. I spent
Wow.
a New Year with one of my best friends from Brown. Um, like things like that. So like yeah, I think it was great and like regard like I like it's something that like I'm very proud of. Like I really love the school. Yeah. Oh
That is so amazing, the connections and stuff.
yeah.
The quality of what you study, the quality of education, the connections you make, the lifelong sort of friendships, all the clubs and even the firms that you have access to, because you're from a target school like McKinsey, like that's literally the top cream of the crop.
That you brought a good point I did not talk about. So, um, how would I phrase this? I feel like at least for consulting, I feel like the way that Brown runs, like the Brown mindset has really helped me in consulting because consulting is a very like I feel like some people look at consulting and they're like, oh, it's like business. Like I'm like, it's not. Like this is not banking. Like consulting is very like interdisciplinary and there's a lot of people component to it. Like
Yep.
you know it until you work and you're like, oh, this is not it's not black and white. Like there's a lot of like personality smart, like and you need to know a lot about different things. Like not just like the balance sheet, like so many things. I think like because of what I did at Brown where I took like so many different classes and like there's so many open discourse about like multiple different topics, it helped me do well in both like consulting, recruiting, and working because when you're looking at when you're working with like clients, like you're never just like trying to make profit for them. There's so many things to navigate, like the organizational politics, the resources constraint, other strategic importance, like market dynamic, and even like on a personal level, like working with partners who have different style, different belief, like things are challenging. Like I think Brown definitely shaped me really well for all of that. Yeah, so I think that was another important thing apart from just like yeah, like totally like getting access to like yeah, like recruiting at top school. Like, yeah, I definitely would not have been able to get that, but I think like it's really the thinking and the lessons that I learned that helped me travel further like in my career.
Interpersonal skills and organizational politics, that's a good one. Navigating organization politics.
Yeah, like reading people, like yeah, even today I'm always like, yeah, you can't just. I'm very like I used to be like I'll say whatever I want. don't care.
Hmm.
But I was like, yeah, no, you should not be doing that. Like, you really need to read the room and like, yeah.
Yeah, especially in corporate settings, managers and stuff, gotta be real diplomatic and stuff.
Yeah,
So, final thing, Annie, like, what would you leave the audience with, and like, what's next for you?
for me. Yeah, well, what I leave the audience with, I, and this is like just a personal lesson from me. If
Mm,
it doesn't resonate, it's okay. We don't have to follow it. I feel like uh we treat college admission,
mm-hmm,
uh, especially college admission at elite school, as like a an accomplishment or like a journey where you're like accomplished and ascending in life, which is not wrong at all. Um, but I think the bigger part to it is like your personal growth,
mm,
and like how you're evolving as a person.
mm-hmm,
Uh, like again, the mistake I feel like, and this is stem from the mistake that I make, where again from like Asian culture, there's a lot of uh, emphasis on like your accomplishment, right? Like just this is all of that, and I feel like at one point it doesn't resonate with me anymore because I'm just like, okay, I don't even know what I'm like. What's the point of getting these accomplishments? Like honestly, like what's the point of going to like an elite school, like so you can brag about it, or like yeah, to get a good job, make money, and so what, right? Like why do you really want to do it? Like what are the things that really resonate with you? Like what makes you wake up and like not afraid to work hard? Like what really motivates you? Like I don't think that oh it's just because I want to go to Harvard and like hang my degree. Like it's because we all have a drive, like we have certain problems that we want to tackle and we have a strong belief in it, and we're pushing ourselves to do it. So I would really view it more as like a personal growth journey and how it relates to your values, your background, your dreams, like, and really you as a person and go from there and really figure it out before thinking about like, what do I need to accomplish before I can get to certain things, if that makes sense. Yeah.
got it. Okay. Um, I think that's so amazing. Everything you share is so profound, and I think for you to reach that sort of reflection, that sort of epiphany comes with a lot of maturity, deep reflection. Because if whoever's watching this is in the process of getting to a top school, you know if they're just hanging on and latching on the result, if they don't get the outcome, they'll be totally devastated. But if you go through it more for the process, more for your growth mindset, learning new things, fostering new relationships, whether the outcome is to your favor or not, you'd still be satisfied with it. So I think
Yeah.
that's so amazing.
And also, like, college is really good at picking out, not just college, right? Companies, college, anywhere are very good at picking out people who are just like resume padding. Because like it 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 will show through your essay and your interview. If you don't have the meat, like what's your internal drive? What are the things what are your values? What are your internal drive? What makes you wake up? What makes you cry? Like why are you doing this? If it's not real and authentic, it's not gonna come through in your essay, your interview, right? If you got like again, this is like I think why I do well in an interview is not just because oh I'm accomplished on paper and know about Brown. I think it's because I have a genuine story I shared because like I'm just the way I am and I show it and they connect to it, right? And this is the same thing that happened with Harvard Business School, same even with McKinsey, right? Like I'm very genuine about like why I want to do consulting, like how does it tie into my long-term future plan, and like obviously the partner who interviewed me like feel like that resonates. So I feel like whatever you do in life, like just be authentic about it and like do it for yourself. Don't do it for like external validation. Really do it for yourself. Yeah.
So amazing. That takes a lot of maturity to really understand and, internalize. Final thing is, Annie, is like, what's next for you? I know you're studying your Harvard MBA in like 2 years' time. But what's next? Like, where do you see your vision, going forward?
What's next? Well, hopefully my US visa work out. That's what.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I would say professionally is right now I'm working at Fanatics. I think for international fans, like you might be less familiar, but we're the biggest sports commerce company in the US. We have like We make a lot of sports merch for like all the biggest sports league, and I'm in the trading card division. So basically, you make trading cards with like all your favorite athletes. I'm a huge F1 fan, so like it's great. I'm working on like a really big digital transformation initiative at Fanatics. There's a huge pipeline of ex consultant who are coming here and work on this ops and strategy. So that's really exciting, and I really hopefully like I will like stay here and help the company grow in different ways until 2026. Apart from that, I have a couple of ideas I may have shared with Royston that I'm working on with some friends. I don't think you're ready to share now, but let's just say like I have a couple of entrepreneurial ideas that I'm gonna be working on with a couple of my close friends, and we'll see how that plays out in the next year. Yeah, and hopefully I think I'm aiming to attend Harvard in 2026. I don't know what I will be exactly focusing there on yet, but for the immediate term, like my career revolves around like the theme is digital transformation, innovation in like data practices, data science, advanced analytics, but like I feel like I gravitate more towards the consumer tech market, so that is gonna be what I'll be focusing on in the next year.
Okay. Thank you so much, Annie, for, this really insightful and detailed interview. And yeah, we'll see you on the inside. Awesome.